guys, welcome back to Sour. I'm here with the one and only Mr. ERBACH.
Hi.
Alright, so for our first candy, it's going to be sour gummy bears.
Okay.
These ones are, they're the Albany's ones.
Albany's is great. Every time I go to Indiana, which is as
Yeah.
least often as possible, we almost stop at the factory outlet. And,
Yeah.
So what do I do? Do I just eat it?
Yeah, you eat it and then you answer my questions.
This is so easy. All right.
Alright, if you could describe your newspaper class in one word, what would it be and why?
The first word that pops into my mind is not one I'm going to say out loud. Because even though everyone would laugh and think it's true, it's probably not the right thing to say here. So, I'm going to say the diplomatic committed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do think that these are good.
They're good.
I think that they are kids that really care about journalism. And they kind of I think it's taken a few years for it to cut through that they, what it means to be a journalist and how to live up to the promises of journalism and the challenges of journalism. But now we have a staff of kids that really get it. And we still struggle sometimes with kids not turning things in on time, or some of the work they turn in is just missing information from a source that they really needed. Generally speaking, all of those kids are willing to do the hard thing to get the story done. And I think this year probably more than ever. We have more kids this year who are willing to be I'll go to a thing tonight. I don't have plans tonight. I'll go do that thing, and then I'll write an article in 24 hours on it. We have more of that than we've ever had before. So, yeah, committed to diplomat. I was going to say broken as the other one. I think everyone in the class would be yeah. And they would probably laugh, but I know that is probably the wrong thing to say. But, here we are. I said it anyway. I picked 2 words instead of 1. I'm sorry.
All right. And then, why do you think so many, emo or, old kids take a newspaper?
Broken kids.
Yeah, it goes along with what I'm going to say.
So, I think, first of all, I don't think that many alt or emo kids. I hate the word emo. We want to do a whole podcast about just the word emo, a whole episode. Because, the word emo has this kind of weird history. It kind of was overused and thrown around in a weird way when I first started teaching. I was totally an emo kid in high school. They just didn't use that word then to describe the kind of kid I was. But I think that generally speaking, am I supposed to be talking and eating at the same time?
Yeah, you can.
That's not gross.
No, it's not gross.
Are you sure? Because I'm sure people are at home and they're oh, it's so chewy sounding.
I don't know if I've ever had anyone ask me that before. People just do it anyway.
All right. Back to the question.
Mm-hmm.
I think high school is a place where the most outgoing and visible kids get rewarded. It's in all athletes, even quiet athletes are put on the spotlight, they're on the field. They don't have to talk to people necessarily, they just got to perform their duty, right? But at the end of the day, it's the most visible kids that get rewarded. And so, and this was the case even when I was the yearbook advisor, because I did the yearbook for a decade before Mr. Stengel took it over and then handed it off to Miss Skoy. But journalism, I think, attracts kids that have something important to say, but that don't always want to be in the spotlight. And they don't always, or they feel the spotlight's not for them. And that, I think, attracts a lot of, we have a lot of outspoken kids that are kind of alternative, right? Mm-hmm. Because they are, but because they're alternative, I don't think, I don't think people in our school have made space for them. Mm-hmm. And this happened all the time, again, when I was the yearbook advisor, I would have students who, got cut from varsity teams, even though they were totally good enough to be on varsity teams, or they were not picked to be, in the back then equivalent of leadership in action. Because they just were, they were not the loudest, most visible kids. And they found a home in yearbook, and they just dove into it and made it an award-winning yearbook. The same is true, I think, for the McHenry Messenger. Mm-hmm. There are kids in our class, though, who are not very alt, but would admit that they are maybe different from the other kids that they hang out with. You know what I mean? And then there are kids in our class that like don't dress very like alternative or like whatever. But like one of the things that's funny is that we have this playlist and like they put music on the playlist and like I let them pick whatever they want and there's some really terrible stuff on there. But I'm always really shocked to see like, you know this band, you know that band, and some of these kids are like quietly super emo and quietly like you wouldn't know it when you saw them. You wouldn't know that the kid sitting right next to you who's in the newspaper staff is into super indie music and has really like loud and like political ideologies that they just kind of keep to themselves. And I don't know. I think that's a cool part about newspapers. So it's just like what it really is a lot of introverts.
Yeah.
We have one kid on staff who takes wonderful pictures but refused to get his picture taken, and I'm like, get over it, man. Sometimes they need to take your picture, but like they don't want to be in the spotlight. They don't want to be the story. They want to be writing about the story. And I think I know that has nothing to do with being emo, but I think that's part of it too. Yeah. Yeah. Does that make any sense?
It does.
Okay.
I agree. Okay.
I've been saving the red gummy bear for last.
Yes.
Do we put these here?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And then Kennedy, you're just gonna swipe those away and replace it with the blue lemonade strips.
Oh, this isn't good, so bad.
All right. You just kind of have to like tear it.
Okay.
All right. So obviously you're a teacher, but you have a whole other career outside of here.
Do I?
Do you have any advice for future writers who are trying to get started?
Yes. I need to cleanse my palate. So I write fiction, and I don't know. I haven't had a lot of success publishing it yet, so that's kind of like you've hit me on kind of an awkward time where it's like I'm trying really hard to be a published author, and I just haven't gotten there yet for one reason or another, and it's hard to even determine what those reasons are. So my advice is just to keep doing it and don't stop doing it, no matter how hard it gets. And I think this is advice for all kinds of hobbies and passions and things like that. Is that there will be a lot of people who will be like, well, why do you do that? Like, what is the point of you? You know, for me it's writing, but for other kids it's like skateboarding or it's like, I don't know, like painting. And people are like, you can't make a career out of that. We live in like a capitalist society where like your future is determined by how much money you make and whether you can, you know, like pay the bills with whatever you want to do. I think I got lucky because I chose a profession that still allowed me to pursue my passions, but I don't know. I think the one thing I've learned by listening to a lot of writing podcasts, engaging with a few writers, and my own experience is like you just got to do it because you like doing it. You got to do it for you. And not to do it for any other reason. Like, don't do it to be published. Don't do it to make money. Just do it because it's a passion you have to do. But don't stop doing it because the more you do it, the better you get at it. The more you pursue your passion, the more you will get out of it personally, and then the more likely cool opportunities will pop up. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have for that one.
Okay.
That was a short one.
Well, that's good. I'm just gonna put them all in my mouth at once. I'm the worst. I'm the worst person you've had on this show. I'm sorry.
No, you know you are not.
Oh boy.
All right, these are new.
I don't like the look of that. What is that? A cat on the wrapper?
Yes, maybe.
I'm gonna hold it up in case someone in post. Is that what you say in broadcast in post? Wants to zoom in on this and post. This cat isn't looking good.
Yeah.
It might not be a cat though.
I don't know what it is actually.
Some sort of varmint.
It's like the bunny or duck or whatever. Like if you look at it different ways, you see different things. That's what this cat is. All right. Oh, it's so gross. Okay, what is your favorite type of music to play in your band?
I don't really. Okay, we need to clear this up because I'm not really in a band, although I'm kind of in bands. So it's good that we're getting this on the record finally. Because my students Google me and they're like, "I found your band," and I'm like, the current band I'm in is really just me and my friend, like, writing music and then asking a couple more friends to play more, like, other instruments and stuff. And it is a Skoth band, which is ska, which is sort of like faster reggae music, or at least modern ska is like that. That's a whole nother episode. But it's goth ska. So they're all like, but it's basically a bunch of dad jokes wrapped into a ska band that writes about Cthulhu and, like, if Cthulhu had to wake up and go to work every day. Like, that's the kind of music we play. So, or like if, like, I don't know, there's a song called Bigfoot Beach about literally being at a beach where Bigfoot is. I mean, it's just, like, stupid. But it's fun. I've always liked ska music, and so my actual answer to this question is probably some kind of ska, because I don't know, it's just kind of fun, energetic music to play. I play my drums really hard and loud, so I'm constantly, like, you know, looking for a good, heavy beat, and I think the kind of ska music we play creates opportunities for that. I used to be in a more of a pop-punk-ish band, and so that's fun to play. And then I'm also, like, in staff instruction, and we just play pop music, generally, or sometimes cool rock music. But all the rock songs that we were gonna play that were cool, that we were gonna play at the Battle of the Bands got cut. So now we're just playing songs by Dua Lipa and stuff like that, which is not nearly as cool.
Why did they get cut?
I don't know. I'm just a drummer. I just show up and play my part. Like, but yeah, I like playing rock music. I like playing loud rock music. I used to like playing fast, like punk rock music. Now I'm too old and not good enough at drums. So I like playing slower, heavy kind of music. But at the end of the day, the kind of music I play when I'm playing in a band is ska music, which is not really fast and not really heavy. So, yeah.
And then, what is something about playing the drums that people who don't play the drums would just never understand?
I think some people understand this, like if you're in a band. But if the drummer shows up not ready to play or doesn't understand the song, like the whole song falls apart. Like, you can be a guitar player and like hit the wrong chord going into the wrong part of the song and be like, oh crap, and then just start playing the right chord. But if you're a drummer and you just start playing the wrong part of the song, everyone's gonna look at you and be like, oh crap, are we in that part of the song? In other words, like, being a drummer, like, there's a little bit of responsibility to be, like, not the leader of the band, but everyone's following you. So, like, yeah, I think this is part of the reason, like, there's not a lot of drummers out there, because, like, it's hard to play the instrument. I mean, for some people it's hard. For others, it's way too easy. But it also comes with the responsibility, like, if you're the singer, you're, like, the most visible person. And if you mumble your way through, like, a whole verse, like, everyone else in the crowd is going to be like, man, that guy looks so good, and not even notice. But if the drummer, like, misses a cymbal, everyone's going to be like, that didn't sound right. What just happened? Yeah. And so I feel like the drummer's got a little bit of weight on their shoulders and a little bit of responsibility.
Yeah. That's all I have for that one.
Okay.
Trash. That one got me a little bit. The, like, sugar on it.
I like almost anything with sugar on it. So, like, it was fine. Like, that wasn't necessarily more sour. What is this?
Lemon juice.
It looks like old pea.
I promise you it's not. You watched me pour it. Okay, ready? Cheers.
Okay.
Yeah. How did you...
That was not a good taste. It's almost like you're not supposed to drink that stuff.
I don't think you are, but it's okay. What kind of students are you looking for in newspaper?
Like, I don't even need good writers. Like, give me your sucky writers. Like, I want kids in class who, like, want to live up to the mission of journalism. And I know that's like a very vague thing to say. But, you know, when you take Introduction to Journalism, which is the class that we kind of hope kids will take, that kind of lead them into one of our publications classes, they learn about, like like, what is the purpose of journalism, and what are the principles that guide journalists, and what are the ethical considerations that guide journalists, and what are our First Amendment rights? And I just got done teaching all of this stuff to my intro kids. And I feel like once you learn that stuff, you either decide that journalism is not for you and this is too much, or you're like, wait a minute, journalism is way bigger than like just writing articles and stuff. Like, you have a duty as a citizen, as a journalist, to report the news and keep people informed and stuff. So, like, give me a crappy writer. Give me someone who can't spell words right or can't capitalize their own name. Because as long as they understand that, like journalism and news is bigger than, like, I don't know, writing their opinion on the Taylor Swift album, and that it's about keeping people informed, and about the responsibility of making sure everyone knows, like, what's going on in their community. I think, like, we can turn them into a good writer.
Yeah.
And we can make them feel like some of my kids who joined newspaper, like, are kids that I had as freshmen. And so they joined their sophomore year. I don't know if it's maybe because they wanted to have another class with me, or maybe I talked them into it. Mm-hmm. And they might not have been great writers. They might not even been great English 1 students. And by the time they're seniors, they're like leading the class. You know, because they bought into that. They've drinking the journalism Kool-Aid or lemon juice, and they are true believers, and they become better writers just by writing a lot and by going through the motions a lot. So yeah.
All right, that's all I have for the lemon juice.
Oh no, is this another juice?
It's toxic waste.
I think I can handle this one.
I don't know.
I say that.
On you a little bit.
I'll say that, but is this the worst one?
Yeah, that's why it's last.
Is it last?
Yes.
This has gone by too quickly.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Sango was like, only 5 questions, and I was like, okay.
You've snuck in more than 5 questions.
Well, I have follow-ups.
I see what you're doing there.
I have follow-ups.
All right.
Good. What do you think has changed about media from when you were in high school to now?
Yeah, okay, well, it's not, it's like sour, but it just tastes bad. It's just like a yucky thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, but someone out there, like kids, like my 10-year-old and 8-year-old, are like, oh, I really want this sour stuff. And it's like, why? Like, the audience of this is like 10-year-olds, like whose parents are dragging them through Five Below. Okay. Oh, Jesus. This thing was not, I'm so distracted, I can't talk. I was not part of student journalism in high school. Mm-hmm. So, Cary Grove's student newspaper, I'm sorry if, like, the 2 kids who worked on that newspaper in 2001 and in 2002 are listening to this, because I'm sure they're not. But Cary Grove's newspaper sucked. It was the worst. We'd read it, and it would be like these 2 people just ranting about random things, and it didn't feel like journalism. And people wrote it off as basically just, I don't know, like somebody's journal being published. And kids got mad at the writers. And so I was not part of that at all. I started doing journalism in college, but I just had a column, a slice of life column, that was like me just like unpacking my experiences as a college student. And I got a lot of readers. Like, a lot of people would come up to me at parties, and they'd be like, oh man, like this one time this drunk girl came up to me at a party and was like, are you DANE from the newspaper? Because my stupid face was in the newspaper. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, that article you wrote about your uncle dying was so beautiful. And she's sitting there sobbing on the couch. And I'm like, and like, so I was not a party animal in college. Like, I didn't drink. I just was like basically trying to keep my roommates from dying. And I'm sitting there on this couch, and this drunk girl is like sobbing next to me. And she's like, you're such a good writer. And I'm like, I'm going to go back to my room now. I mean, like, so people read my column, and I don't know, I felt the juice of, like, impacting my community and, like, capturing, like, telling my story in a way that reflected their stories and spreading my truth or whatever. But I was not doing journalism. You know what I mean? I started writing more album reviews for music magazines, and then I started interviewing bands for music magazines. And it was slightly more journalism. But, like, I have nothing to compare current scholastic journalism to prior scholastic journalism. Mm-hmm. But I can talk about actual journalism, but I don't know if this is going to get me fired because teachers are not supposed to talk about things that are important like this and take sides. But screw it. Like when I was in high school, it was like a media landscape where like it was really clear that certain news outlets like Fox News were there to balance what they perceived to be a liberal mainstream media. Mm-hmm. So like they called their Fox News called their news fair and balanced at the time, like in the early 2000s. But what they were really doing was just balancing what they perceived to be a media that was biased. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it was necessarily biased, but I totally get what they're saying. This is not tasting as bad anymore.
Yeah, it goes away after a little bit.
It's almost delicious now, but at first it was like, why? I think now the media is totally screwed up. Mm-hmm. I think it's important, this is why I teach media literacy to my newspaper and journalism kids. And we even dabble in this in English 1 honors, which I teach. Like, I think it's really important because like I grew up in a time when like older millennials and Generation X didn't they could pick up the Chicago Tribune and get the news. Mm-hmm. There weren't picking up a newspaper and reading the news was the only way to get your news for a while, and then the internet made it so you could read more news and stuff like that. But then now we became news literate before we became digital news literate, or for digital literacy was the thing. So I think there's a lot of digital illiterate adults out there, who will just read whatever they read on Facebook, whatever headline they read must be true. And I think that has screwed up a lot of things. I think in politics, people take people at face value that shouldn't be trustworthy, because a news outlet that is not trustworthy fed it to them. And I know that's probably, that's the kind of stuff that teachers shouldn't be saying, maybe. But I think it's true. I think that we have a news literacy problem in the world. So, kids are the hope, the great hope. Except for a lot of young people get their news on TikTok. Mm-hmm. And TikTok has some reliable news outlets and has a lot of rumors and a lot of gossip and a lot of opinions that might not be grounded in reality. So, I don't know. I think journalism has changed for the worse in that, well, let me rephrase that. Journalism has changed for the better because it has to live up to the promise of journalism now, more than ever, because journalists are under attack by politicians and by the public, who see them as just trying to be out to get people that are heroes of other people. So journalists have to do a better job, and they are. They're doing really good stuff. They just, people will see what they want to see in the news. Mm-hmm. But media literacy has gone down the turlet. People just don't know what they're doing, what they're reading anymore, and are looking for confirmation bias. They are looking for confirmation of their bias than they are actual news. So that is my long-winded answer, but I think this is why I say I'd rather have a kid in a newspaper who understands the mission of getting the truth out there, mm-hmm. and not just feeding into a conspiracy theory and stuff like that. So.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah.
With your long-winded answers, I love it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's going to be the longest episode you've ever published or whatever.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It was intriguing.
Cool.
Okay. Bye, guys.